Miss Cindy from the Crown Point Community Library, and today I'm going to be bringing the library into your home with the STEAM at Home activity. I hope you've signed up for summer reading, and I hope you're finding lots of fun books to read and that you're stopping by the library to pick up our activities to go. If you haven't heard, our summer reading theme this year is Imagine Your Story. So every week we're looking at a different aspect of storytelling, and this week it's Imagine Your Own Story. So we want to encourage you to think about who you are and what makes you unique and what your story is, because everybody has a story. So our challenge for this week is the Fingerprint Challenge, and we're going to be doing stuff with our fingerprints. So I wanted to give you some information about forensic science, because fingerprinting is a really important part of forensic science. And forensics is a science that's kind of like a game. It involves finding clues and putting together a puzzle, solving mysteries that are left behind at a crime scene. The forensic science includes the preservation and the reconstruction of evidence that over time that has passed. So what these scientists do is they look for clues and they try to figure out the details of the crime that was committed. You may have seen some shows like that on TV or have heard about it. Well, one of the oldest forensic science tools is fingerprinting. In fact, did you know that every person has a unique set of fingerprints? No two fingerprints are alike. It's pretty interesting, huh? After a crime, forensic scientists search the crime scene for fingerprints, and then they compare them to an online database that they can try to find a match, and they can figure out who was at the crime scene. So I want to share with you, this is a nonfiction book, which means that it's from our nonfiction section. It means that all the information in this book is true. So it's not a story, it's actual facts. And I'm just this is a whole book about different things and different types of forensic science, but I want to focus on the fingerprint part for today. And so I'm going to read a little bit from that. And this chapter is called, Who Are You? How do your fingerprints get from your skin to surfaces such as doorknobs and tabletops? Well, give the tips of your fingers a close look with a magnifying glass, and you'll see elevated ridge lines with sunken valleys between. The lines run in curves and circles and loops. Just beneath the skin are sweat glands. The glands ooze skin oils through tiny holes called pores. Sweat, perspiration is really just almost all water, but not 100%. About 1.5% of your sweat is a mix of salt and chemicals. This mix remains on your fingertips after the water evaporates, and this salty residue transfers to a surface when you touch it. This way, you leave behind a print. Your fingerprints begin forming before your birth. By the time you're born, they're complete and permanent. They will always provide positive proof of who you are. Fun fact, if you cut or burn your finger, the skin will grow back with the same fingerprint you had before. So if you did something to your finger and cut it where your fingerprint is, when your skin grew back, when it healed, it would actually have the same fingerprint pattern. So you can't change your fingerprints. Tens of thousands of criminals have been caught by their fingerprints. The first in the United States was a man named Thomas Jennings. The year was 1910, and the place was Chicago, Illinois. A person broke into Clarence Hiller's house. The intruder shot and killed Hiller. A suspect, Jennings, was arrested less than 1 mile away. He was carrying a loaded revolver. The day before the murder, Clarence Hiller had painted the railings on the steps to his house. One railing was next to the window where the intruder got in. The paint was still wet. There on the railing were 4 fingerprints from the killer's left hand. They were a perfect match to Jennings' fingerprints. Thomas Jennings was arrested. To every CSI, the words dusting and lifting have special meaning. And a CSI is a criminal science investigator or crime scene investigator. They describe what CSIs must do to collect fingerprints at a crime scene. First, they dust the surface with a special powder. They apply it with a camel hair brush using short, quick strokes. The dust sticks to the salty residue on the fingerprint, and then the CSIs press clear tape down onto the surface and carefully lift it back up. The tape now contains the fingerprint. The CSIs put the tape onto the back of a card of a piece of paper, and they make sure they label it as evidence for safe keeping. I am going to show you today how to lift fingerprints, so you can try that at home. So forensic experts compare crime scene fingerprints with the prints on file. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, also known as the FBI, has a computer database called the Integrated Automated Fingerprint Identification System, which is a very long title. They call it IAFIS. Criminal suspects are fingerprinted when they're arrested, and their prints are kept in the database. So are the prints of anyone who enters military service or applies for a government job. They have tens of millions of fingerprints on file. Unknown prints from a crime scene can be compared with the millions on file to try to get a match. This job takes just a few minutes, but before the computer age, it took much longer. Fingerprints are so important that CSIs have developed many special ways to get them. Fun fact, the FBI has fingerprint records for more than 47 million people. Pretty interesting, huh? So this is forensic science, and it does go on. It talks about DNA as evidence. It talks about finding other evidence in the crime scene, reconstructing the crimes, and how the police go through and how they can figure out who did something based on the clues that they find on the scene. So what I would like to do today is introduce our take and make activity. So hopefully you've been to the library and you picked up one of these bags. If you haven't, you can still do the activity at home. I'm going to go through and tell you some of the stuff that you can do. So what's inside this bag? Well, first of all, if you've had one before, you know that on the back is information about what the challenge is. And our challenge today, there's actually two challenges. The first is to challenge you to look at your fingerprint, and the second one is to try to lift a fingerprint from an object. So let's start. In your bag, you will find some information about the fingerprint challenge, and there are directions on how to lift a fingerprint from a glass. And then there is a cute little paper that tells you some different ways that you can take your fingerprints and you can turn them into art. So I challenge you to try that. You will also find a paper that looks like this. It has two hands with 5 boxes for each hand. So each one of those is so you can do your fingerprint for all of your fingers, and you can look at them on there. There will be a fingerprint types, and it'll show you how there's different types of fingerprints, and you can see which one matches with yours or looks similar. Remember, no two are alike, so it won't be the exact one, but you will see similarities between them. Then you're also going to have a stamp pad. They are lots of different colors, so mine is black, but yours might be pink, it might be purple, it might be green, it might be blue. And then you will also have a magnifying glass. So what you are to do, the very first thing that you're going to do, let me point my camera down a little bit, is you're going to open up your stamp pad, take your finger, I like to use my index finger, and see, this would be this hand, you could tell, so this is my left hand, this would be this finger, put my fingerprint right on there. Now mine, that just came through pretty dark. I have a little bit too much ink, so I may do another one on top so I can see it. You can see that one's a little bit better. The first one had a lot of ink on it, so my stamp pad has a lot of ink. It's very wet, which is a good thing, but you may have to stamp it. If your first one comes through and it's just a little bit too dark, just do it again on top. You don't even have to touch the stamp pad again. And then do one for all of your fingers and see how they look. These are washable. My finger's going to be a little bit black. I don't have soap and water right here with me, but I did wipe it off. And then I can take that and I can look at it through my magnifying glass and see what it looks like. So I can examine it and look for patterns. And then I can look at this paper, the fingertip type paper, and see if my fingertip is like there's a plain arch or a whorl or a loop, and see what kind of fingerprint I have. So that is the first thing that you're going to do. You can share this activity with other family members, and you can compare your fingerprints with their fingerprints. You could kind of create your own family database of fingerprints, because the next thing, the part that you're going to do is you're going to try lifting, and then you can be a crime scene investigator, and you can try to figure out whose fingerprint was left on a glass. So how do you lift a fingerprint off of a glass? Probably, if your mom is like me, she probably gets tired of finding fingerprints all over the house. I would just clean the sliding glass door and turn around, and there are fingerprints on it. Or our refrigerator. There's always fingerprints on our refrigerator. And because you remember, the sweat from your fingers leaves fingerprints on everything you touch. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a glass. And a glass surface is the easiest to take fingerprints from. And you're going to need some cocoa powder. So this would be found in the kitchen. You just would need to ask your mom if she has any cocoa powder. You can also use cornstarch if you don't have baking or cocoa powder. However, if you use cornstarch, then obviously you're going to have to put that print onto black paper, because if you put it onto white paper, cornstarch is white, you won't see it. So I'm going to use cocoa powder, because it's brown and it will show up well on my white paper. So you'll need a piece of paper, and then you're going to need some type of brush. I have a makeup brush that I had at home. You again ask your mom, please don't just go into her makeup drawer and take her makeup brush, because then when she goes to put her makeup on later and she has cocoa powder in it, and she gets cocoa powder on instead of her makeup, she's not going to be very happy with you. So talk to your mom before you borrow a makeup brush, and you can wash it and clean it after. All right, so what you're going to do, the directions, like I said, are in your bag. They are right here. They will also be available online to find. So what we're going to do, when you need tape, you're going to need some Scotch tape. So the first thing that you're going to do is I'm going to put my fingerprints on this glass, because I want to try to get my fingerprints onto this glass. So I'm just going to put them on there, get some of my fingerprints. Then I'm going to take my cocoa powder. I have paper down because this might get a little bit messy, and I just want to keep it. And I'm going to put some cocoa powder down on my paper. I don't know if you guys can see that. Move it back a little bit. Put a little bit of cocoa powder down. And then I want to brush it very gently onto my glass. What I'm trying to do is trying to find my fingerprints. So I'm going to brush it gently onto there. I know I'm talking quieter. I'm doing it gently. I don't think you can see that from there, but I can see where the fingerprints are because the cocoa powder sticks to those fingerprints, so I can kind of see where they are. And then the next step that you're going to do is where they are, you're going to take a piece of tape, find the fingerprint, and if it's helpful, one thing that may make it a little, because my glass is clear, is if I put a paper towel inside, it does kind of help me to see it a little bit better. You probably still can't see it on the camera, but I can see it here. And then I just want to lay my tape over the top. And what I'm doing is I put the tape onto my glass, and then I'm just going to gently peel it off. And then when I put it onto my, shouldn't put it on that one, put it onto this one, put it onto my paper, I'll be able to see the fingerprints that I lifted from the glass. It may take you several tries. You might want to try it with different glasses. You might want to try it, especially if you've just been doing something and your hands are a little bit more sweaty, you'll get a better fingerprint that way. Don't wet your hands, don't just wash them, because if you've just washed your hands, then you're washing off a lot of the sweat and the salt that are on there that leaves the fingerprints. So do this when your hands are not just washed, not freshly washed. And like I said, if they're a little bit sweaty, then you'll get a better fingerprint. But go ahead and try it. I hope that you have fun. You might want to go ahead and do all of your family, put a bunch of glasses out and have everybody in your family touch some different glasses and then mix them up and then see if you can figure out whose glass was whose based on their fingerprints. I hope you've enjoyed this video. You can check out Crown Point Library's website, crownpointlibrary.org, for more videos, for more resources, and please come by the library each week and pick up our kits and our summer reading to go bags. Take care.